The supplicant and submissive GOP is putting in overtime to make Donald Trump a king. I'm here talking about Senator Chuck Grassley, the chair of the Senate Judiciary Committee, who doesn't seem to have much respect for the judiciary at this point. And so, like everyone else in the Trump administration, he's in charge of a body to destroy the thing he's in charge of. He's introduced a bill to effectively neuter the checks and balances that any judge in America can provide against Donald Trump. Now, technically, it's against presidents, but I have no doubt that once it's not Donald Trump anymore, everything I'm gonna say to you right now is not going to apply. But he wants to protect Donald Trump from any checks and balances. So he has this bill, it limits the scope of judicial rulings. Under his bill, judicial rulings would be limited to the parties involved, meaning any judge's order would not apply to others who may be similarly situated, but did not file litigation. It also requires litigants to pursue class action lawsuits if they seek relief for those beyond just the parties suing. So let's talk about examples of this and what would happen if this was law. So federal judges have already issued at least a dozen nationwide injunctions against Trump's policies since he took office in January, temporarily blocking a range of orders. That includes things like seeking to ban all transgender people from military service based entirely on their identity, ending the constitutional right to birthright citizenship, and things like that. So, and here's an example of, in practice, the difference between the way things have always worked and that Chuck Grassley has been perfectly happy to have them work under Joe Biden, and now the special powers he wants to unconstitutionally grant to Donald Trump. So there's a case challenging Trump's use of the Alien Enemies Act. And so in that, the ACLU has sought a class action certification. But under Grassley's bill, the judge's temporary restraining order would only apply to the specific 5 Venezuelan migrants who've sued over the executive order. That means that Trump would still be free for weeks, months, years to deport anyone else he wants under that, while the executive order itself is being adjudicated as whether it's legal or constitutional. And so if you're a transgender soldier who doesn't want to have your career utterly destroyed just because of who you are, you might not be able to be ejected from the military, but tens of thousands of other transgender soldiers would. You get the idea here? That effectively the judge saying don't do this would have no effect whatsoever. It would stop 1 or 2 people from being affected by the injustice, and what might be utterly unconstitutional would be allowed to proceed as the court case works its way through for potentially years. You get the idea there? And it's interesting because I have been doing this show long enough to remember that under Joe Biden, there were lawsuits that challenged Joe Biden's orders, and judges did nationwide injunctions. So for instance, when Joe Biden said, I'm gonna cancel a bunch of student loan debt, there were 7 Republican states that sued to block it, and it was blocked. And I don't remember Chuck Grassley saying, that's the way it should be, but only in those 7 states. Only the specific students who sued to maintain their student loan debt should have it. Everyone else, obviously the president shouldn't be, his hands shouldn't be tied behind his back by some unelected judge. Weird that he didn't have a problem with checks and balances under Joe Biden in that or in many other cases where they successfully sued, got their blocks, got their rulings, got their nationwide injunctions. Only now under Donald Trump, when more and more blatantly unconstitutional, I almost swore, stuff is being done. Now we need to stop checks and balances. Now you don't have separation of powers. We have a king and that is it. And I love that Chuck Grassley is like pretending that he has power to do anything here too. Dude, did you not get the memo that Donald Trump doesn't give a damn about you or the Senate either? He's ignoring you guys as much as he is the judges. But so far, Chuck Grassley doesn't seem to have, I don't know, the minute bit of a testicle necessary to be bothered by that. For now though, Jackson, this is a bill that he put forward. There's a version of it in the House as well. I assume it won't pass, but we are living in hell. So what do you think?
Right, we in hell things kind of happen arbitrarily and randomly, so you can never be too sure. But I mean, this is just incredibly misguided. This whole executive authoritarian outreach that these people have been moving towards for years now. I mean, what are you just going to turn the king off it when a Democrat wins? You know, like you don't want any checks and balances. So I mean, like, what is Donald Trump just never going to die? Is he going to get the Space Marine upgrades and just live forever. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I mean, but this is a serious issue for the Republican Party, for the establishment itself, because they don't really have anybody next in line. JD Vance is not that. Because it's a cult, because MAGA is a cult movement. There's nobody else who can demand, or rather command, so much just blind, just a blind following the way Trump does. Marco Rubio can't do it. None of these people can do it.
DeSantis can't.
I mean, a Democrat, unless they just completely, like block millions and millions of people from voting, a Democrat's almost guaranteed to win the presidency in 2028. I mean, it's almost a guarantee that that's going to happen, no matter who it is, with 4 years of this nonsense. So, like, what are you going to do then? Are you just going to be like, okay, no, we want the checks and balances back? Like these people, and as you pointed out before, being stupid really isn't a good thing. These people are stupid. They're not thinking about any of this. They're really not like, oh, Trump, we just going to keep him in office and then we'll figure it out later.
Yeah, I mean, look, the theory that I've put forward before is that they know full well that they'll lose in the midterms. They know full well that they'll lose in the presidency. But at that point, $5 to $10 trillion will have already gone out the door to the richest people in the country.
Right.
And so they lose for 4 years, maybe even 8. Maybe AOC gets 2 terms, and then I don't know. There's a transgender caravan that gets Barron into office, and then they hand trillions more to the wealthy. I feel like that's the bargain that they're knowingly making.